And here to discuss, our good friend Dave Lapham. Lap, you getting charged up? You getting in game day shape?
Steeler week, baby. Steeler week.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, speaking of it, nothing says Steeler week than talking about the front sevens, right? And the offensive line. So here's my concern, Lap, if you will. I know with the Bengals addressed the offensive line in free agency, got 3 different guys. There's now 4 new starting offensive linemen. That is a good thing. But on the other side, Lap, I think to myself, they didn't play much or at all in the preseason. That's 4 guys. You would know better than anybody how much a line has to work together and kind of know the guy next to you kind of thing. And I guess what I'm saying is, I hear that the Bengals have addressed the offensive line, but until my eyeballs tell me that they have, I'm going to be skeptical. Should I be?
I understand where you're coming from, Rock. There's no question. I mean, the thing that I guess the saving grace as such is that, you got guys. One was elected captain at the center position, Karras, and he's he's 2-time Super Bowl champion, the right guard, 1-time Super Bowl champion with Tampa Bay, and Karras with the Patriots, and Brady's the common denominator. Collins has been in multiple playoff games. They know what it's supposed to look like, and they've done it at a high level. But I agree with you. It's like until you start doing it next to each other, and it might not take that much time, but there'll be a little bit of an adjustment. It's make sure you're setting on the right levels for the twists and the stunts. And here comes the linebacker downhill as well, and you got to pick all that stuff up. And it's not like they haven't done it; they just haven't done it next to each other. And so it'll be interesting to see. They don't have one combination that's played next to each other at all and have not taken a snap. Preseason and regular season, not one guy. The only time they played snaps next to each other was against the Rams in those 2, pretty good tempo practices, and they were good practices. There's no question. I think that it's an obvious statement. I think they're going to be better in late September than they are in the early September. They might be better in the second half of the opener against the Steelers than they are in the first half. I think there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment. Hopefully, it's a quick adjustment because of all the experience that they've had in the past. And, the good news is they've seen it. They know how to recognize it, communicate it, and all that kind of stuff. Now it's just getting the physical execution done.
How tough is it to gel as a line like that, Lap? I guess it's individual. It's up to the individuals, right? You're either going to come together naturally or you're just going to have to be forced a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just repetition breeds comfort level, and just about like anything you do. The first show you guys did together is a little bit different than the show you're doing today, and it's just you start to get used to each other. There's comfort levels involved and all that sort of thing. So, but it's not like they haven't, from a communication standpoint. That's in my mind as big as anything because, the Steelers run this funky 3-3 stack defensive look that looks almost like a college defense. Mm-hmm. And then they'll take T.J. Watt. They run it with 4-3 personnel, and they'll have T.J. Watt and move him around in different gaps, and he'll attack from up and down the line of scrimmage all over the place. And this guy is a 20-sack-a-year guy, and I've seen many times where he's a free runner because they screw up the calls, the recognition, the calls, the communication. So I think that this group, and they've been doing it, next to each other in meeting rooms and on the practice field for a while. I don't think that's going to be the issue, and I think that's a big part of the battle. Not allowing the Pittsburgh Steelers to confuse you, and then cause issues and confidence concerns and all that sort of thing. Then it's just a matter of hitting them and blocking them, and it's going to be physical. I can tell you that.
Dave Lapham is our guest. So Lap, the offensive line, that's my concern heading into Week 1 against the Steelers. Do you have any concerns, and if so, what are they?
Well, I do know it's going to be interesting, Rock, to see the difference. The Bengals with Zach Taylor in the school, like the L.A. Rams are with Sean McVay, and about half the league is don't play your regulars in the preseason. Yeah. Don't hit them. Don't protect them. Make sure they make the dance the opener, and they all have. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, they were very non-Pittsburgh-like last year. They ran the ball for 93 yards a game, 29th out of 32 teams. They gave up 146.1, dead last, 5 yards a carry, dead last, worst in franchise history since they started keeping stats. So they still led the league, though, with 55 sacks. Figure that out. But Tomlin said, we got to get physical. every time they put pads on, they hit and took people to the ground. And he played his starters in, a quarter and a half in the preseason. So there's very, very contrasting philosophies there. It's going to be interesting to see, how they play. And, I guess one concern would be they've been tackling, the Bengals haven't. I hope there's not a whole lot of missed tackles that lead to yards after, initial contact. And, you can thump and do all that kind of stuff, but taking feet on the ground, Rock better than anybody. I mean, that can be a different deal when you're dealing with these, caliber athletes in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask you guys, having played both played the game, which approach do you prefer?
Well, I'm just going to go with the only thing I know, which is, at no point, were we hitting and tackling to the ground all practice. But there were certain periods, right? And Lap, you had more of those certain periods when you played where you went full speed and you tackled to the ground. And, I just think there's something to being battle hardened. There's something to having gone through it. And, I'd rather, mess up something going full speed now in a practice where you can correct something if you have something wrong with your fundamentals or your form tackling. I'd rather have a practice or two to kind of work that out versus the first time I'm doing it is when I'm trying to tackle George Pickens after he catches a pass,
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I guess back in the day when we would walk to school 5 miles in the rain.
That's right. Both ways.
Packing our own lunch both ways, uphill both ways. It was a different dynamic, and I think it's smart to not beat the hell out of players.
Right.
Today, I think that's going to longer careers, better performances, and all that. I think for the long term, and the Bengals proved it last year, they peaked at the right time, played their best football at the right time down the stretch. So it's kind of a balancing act to me. It's like you don't want to get off to such a slow start because maybe you didn't hit quite as much as you might have, could have, or maybe would have potentially. And you get off to a slow start and you bury yourself a little bit. Short term, the hitting is probably works out better. Long term, it might not. Guys might fatigue quicker. Mm-hmm. They may get more injuries down the stretch because they've been hitting all season long, including in the early stages of training camp. I mean, you can make arguments for any of it and all of it. All I know is it worked for the Bengals last year. They got the Super Bowl 56 against a team that did it the exact same way, and Zach learned it from Sean McVay, and those two teams were the last two standing.
Yeah, I agree with you that I think they are doing smarter things in terms of taking care of players' bodies now, especially considering it's a 17-game season and all that. Yep. I just feel like there should be a little bit. Like the amount of hitting you did was too much. I think the lack of hitting they do now is too much. Somewhere in the middle there, and I almost feel like when I was playing, it was it was kind of about right. I went into the season saying, okay, I know how to tackle, and I feel like I'm prepared to do that. And I guess as it pertains to the offensive line, Lap, I would be more okay with not having those guys play any preseason games if those 5 guys had been starters last year or for the past 2 years. Then you say, okay, they know how to operate with one another. They know that this guy likes to set back a little bit more on this protection. And this is brand new. 4 out of the 5 guys are new. That's the concerning part. Now, this is the big gamble, though, Lap, and that was clearly what Zach Taylor's MO was. Said, look, we don't want to peak too early.
I think there is a balancing act there, and I do know that players appreciate it. They do appreciate the fact that Zach Taylor he's protecting their bodies, and that means something to them. The best thing to do, go play your asses off and make it pay off. The last thing Zach wants to do is have a team go out and lay a big egg and say, dudes, I try to take care of you. Lay a dinosaur egg for me. What's the deal here? Let's make it a square deal.
Absolutely. Now, lastly, before we let you go, we have just been given word that you are the Week 1 ruler of the jungle, Lap. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. Ruler of the jungle. I was a little hesitant because I thought, man, might be crazy trying to get to the
get back to the booth, man.
But I guess they've assured me that they get that figured out somehow. I guess golf carts or whatever. But yeah, it's going to be fun because honestly, they have a waiting list for season tickets. It appears it's going to be the biggest crowd in in this stadium's history.
Wow.
Now, I know Paycor is brand new, but I mean, I'm talking about when it was Paul Brown Stadium as well. And the good news is there won't be a lot of yellow and black. I mean, it's going to be Bengals fans. Instead of giving their tickets, selling their tickets to Steeler fans, keep that color out of the stadium, man. Let's see some orange and black. I think we're going to see a lot of it and be full throat for this team. They've earned it. They deserve it. See if they can get them off to a good start. I mean, make the jungle a tough place to play, and it's going to be a lot of fun addressing that crowd a little bit and get fired up together. That'll be cool.
Well, Lap, be a benevolent ruler. Be kind.
Go to your head.
Don't let it go to your head.
Yeah.
Be kind and benevolent.
I hope there's no crown involved because my bucket head, man, they won't have a crown big enough. They won't have it.
Say they have to spring for the more expensive one that's bigger.
It's going to have to be adjustable. It's going to be adjustable crown.
All right, Lap. That's great stuff, man. We'll be hearing you soon enough on Sunday.
Guys, have a great one. Thanks.
Lap, you're the best. Thanks.